Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to a thread of hope, walking the footsteps of Jesus in the Old Testament. I am so glad you are here. Today is Esther. We are going to look a little bit at the book of Esther, and it's different. First of all, you probably know God isn't mentioned in the book of Esther. The temple isn't mentioned in the book of Esther, nor are priests mentioned in the book of Esther. Now, a lot of that is probably because these folks are still in Babylon. There have been 3 groups taken back to Jerusalem. These folks aren't in that group yet. So they are still in bondage in Babylon. And I'm sure you know this story, but King Xerxes is not particularly a bad king, just probably not a real responsible king. It starts with he and his group of men having a 7-day celebration that involved alcohol. So he was not entirely sober when he asked for his queen Vashti at the time to come, and he just wanted to show her off because he only married beautiful women. And she said no. She was having her own party with the women, and for whatever reason, she said no, and he did not like that. He did not like that at all. So she wasn't queen anymore. It was just like that. No more Queen Vashti. And so he needed a new queen. And through a set of circumstances, Esther was one that was taken to see if she would fill that role. She was liked by everyone in the palace, including the king. And long story short, she was made the new queen, Queen Esther. So while this is going on, Mordecai is visiting every day. Mordecai is her cousin, and he raised her because she lost her parents. I don't know if that was, coming to Babylon or whatever, but he raised her as his own child. And so he would go every day to see how she was doing. And one of the times he went to the palace just to see how she was doing, he overheard a plot to kill the king. And so he told Queen Esther, and she told the king, and she gave credit to Mordecai, and so he gave a party for Mordecai and honored him, and Haman did not like that. Haman was his second in command, and he did not like that. And then Mordecai refused to honor or bow down to Haman, and he really didn't like that. So then he decided he was going to have the Jews all annihilated because Mordecai was one of them. And he went to the king and said, they're set apart, they don't have the same rules we do, we just need to get rid of them because they are not like us. And so the king, at another party, had been drinking, and so gave him his signet ring and said, sure, go ahead. And it was decided it would happen 11 months later. So there's a letter that goes out, but Queen Esther isn't aware of this. They don't know she's Jewish because Mordecai told her not to tell them. Well, when he hears this letter, after his wailing and mourning of what was going to happen, he went to her and said, okay, I know I told you not to, but now you need to go to the king and tell him who you are, because our whole entire nation in Babylon will be wiped out. We will be annihilated in 11 months. And her response was, you all fast for 3 days. I'm going to fast for 3 days. All my servants are going to fast for 3 days. And then I'm going to go to the king. And if I perish, I perish. Wow, that's amazing. She was going to do that for her people. So the story goes on. She went to the king, and of course, she was able to save the Jewish people from being wiped out by Haman's rule. And the 2 things that I think really point to Christ are, first of all, God made a covenant with Adam and Eve and with Abraham, saying that he would take care of their descendants, and specifically Abraham. That covenant was one that he promised to take care of them. And if you remember, he put Abraham to sleep so that it was just a covenant that God made. And the other thing is, and so this continues, his hand of providence was on them. Even though they weren't the messianic line, he still cared about them, had chosen them, and wanted them to go on. And then the next thing was that Esther she loved her people so much, she was willing to die for them to be saved, which is just like Jesus. So there you have